This is an earth-shattering announcement from the Israeli military confirming that Yahya Sinwar, Hamas's leader, the mastermind of the October 7th attacks, has indeed been killed by the Israeli military in Gaza. His body has now been brought back to Israel, and the DNA testing confirming beyond a shadow of a doubt that it was indeed Sinwar.
All right, great news for Israel, something that they claim that they've been wanting to do since the beginning of this war. They have now officially killed Yahya Sinwar, the military leader of Hamas and the architect of October 7th, the massacres that were carried out in Israel. He's been killed by IDF forces in Gaza, and now the real question that remains is, will the death of Yahya Sinwar finally lead to a ceasefire, an end to this war? What comes next? You're gonna have to stick around for that. But before we do get to that portion of the story, let's get into who Yahya Sinwar is, what happened, how he was killed. Go ahead, Cenk, concise statement, let's get back.
Okay, so no more excuses. Everyone that did the October 7th attack is dead. He was the main architect, Sinwar was, of October 7th, he's dead. Hamas is obliterated. If they continue past this, you'll know with absolute certainty that it had nothing to do with self-defense. It was always about the land. But we'll get to that as well.
Yep.
Back to you, Ann.
Okay, so if you're unfamiliar with him, he was actually imprisoned in an Israeli prison until he was released in 2011. The reason why he was released is there was a prisoner swap type situation, but it turns out that his killing may have been a total fluke. So here's an explanation of what ended up happening.
Images of what appeared then to be a dead man curled up in a pile of rubble and with a deep gash across the top of his head. The IDF then released a statement about an hour later saying that during operations in the Gaza Strip, they killed 3 terrorists, and then they started checking the possibility that one of them was, in fact, Yahya Sinwar. Tests were run on his DNA, his fingerprints were checked because Israel has those records from the time Sinwar spent in prison. And now, interestingly, local Israeli media are reporting that Sinwar's killing may actually have been by chance, that Israeli troops were clearing the area, saw these 3 people, fired on them, and only when they went to inspect their bodies did they think that one of the men looked like Yahya Sinwar, and now we get that confirmation that it was.
So this wasn't a targeted killing. It seems that when you're doing aerial bombardments and leveling every single building that you can possibly find in Gaza, you're gonna end up killing Yahya Sinwar eventually, and that appears to be the case here. Now, there are celebrations in Israel over this for obvious reasons, but also because of the fact that some of the family members who are hoping to get the hostages back think that maybe this will usher in some peace, the ability to actually implement a ceasefire and get the hostages back home. Palestinians and Gazans alike are obviously excited about this too, because they think maybe this will usher in a new era of peace. But I don't know if that's really gonna be the case. The mother of one of the hostages and one of the most vocal advocates for a hostage deal put out a video statement addressing Netanyahu in which she says, "Don't bury the hostages. You have your victory image. Now bring a deal." Kamala Harris also spoke today and expressed hope that this would end the war.
Israel has a right to defend itself, and the threat Hamas poses to Israel must be eliminated. Today, there is clear progress toward that goal. Hamas is decimated, and its leadership is eliminated. This moment gives us an opportunity to finally end the war in Gaza. And it must end such that Israel is secure, the hostages are released, the suffering in Gaza ends, and the Palestinian people can realize their right to dignity, security, freedom, and self-determination. And it is time for the day after to begin without Hamas in power.
That was her statement. President Joe Biden says he will be speaking soon with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to discuss the pathway for bringing the hostages home to their families and for ending this war, yada, yada, yada. I'm sure he's gonna be super effective in that. Who cares about what Biden has to say? He's been a complete and utter failure in regard to implementing a ceasefire deal and ensuring that there's peace in the Middle East. Let's actually go to the Israeli officials who are already suggesting that they have no intention of stopping the war. Take a look.
Today, evil has suffered a heavy blow, but the task before us is not yet complete. To the dear families of the hostages, I say, this is an important moment in the war. We will continue with all our strength until the return home of all of your loved ones, who are our loved ones. This is our highest commitment. This is my highest commitment.
All right, so I have more evidence of Israeli officials basically saying that they're going to continue on with this war. But Cenk, I mean, did you think it was going to be a different outcome?
There is one piece of hope here. So I'm going to get to that hope in a second, and it's a very realistic one based on practical considerations. But first, let's just discuss the context of this. So first of all, Yahya Sinwar is the lead architect, as we all understand, of October 7th. So is Israel justified in going after him and killing him? Of course. So that's how this works. So they did it. They got him. They also got every other leader of Hamas. So it's, in terms of Hamas, it's over. And so how about a hostage deal? Because that's still outstanding. Well, Hamas has agreed to a hostage deal since July 2nd. It's Israel who hasn't agreed. And so, in fact, Israel had agreed and Hamas accepted their terms, and then Israel reneged on it. So that's super relevant for what's going to happen next, because the American press originally reported it correctly. The American administration did, that it was Israel that backed out, and Hamas has been in favor of a ceasefire deal ever since, right? So for a long, long time here. So if Israel wants it, they can have a ceasefire deal tomorrow, get all the hostages back. And they killed all the leadership of Hamas. No excuses left, right? So now we're gonna find out who they are and what they're going to do, because since there are no excuses left, was it about land, or did you want to get the hostages back? Okay, you can get them back tomorrow. Did you want to take out Hamas? Did you want to do vengeance and revenge, etc.? By the way, at this point, you've gotten all of it. Not only did you get all of Hamas's leadership, but you've gotten your revenge, you've gotten your vengeance, you've leveled Gaza, etc. The only thing left is to take land. So that's the big question at hand. So now, when you look at Kamala Harris's video, part of it is absurd, but you might not know it. She says, "Oh, this is a great opportunity." I go, "Yeah, I agree." And now we can turn to making a peace deal with the Palestinians, etc. As if she cares about that and thinks that's realistic. But she knows, she's the vice president, that there's not a single major Israeli leader that is in favor of the two-state solution anymore. The Israeli cabinet overwhelmingly voted saying that they will never give the Palestinians a state. They are denying them their right to exist, and any leader that says it drops in the polls, and the major challenger to Netanyahu thinks that they should expand more and does not believe in giving the Palestinians a state. So there is no actual long-term answer here. Kamala Harris, as with, to be fair to her, almost every single American politician lying about that. Okay, so now, what is the interesting political opportunity here that I mentioned? Well, look, if you start talking about, people who want to do the right thing, Kamala Harris, Netanyahu, Trump, like none of that's like children talking that way. So the only thing that can move things here is Netanyahu's political interest. But now his political interest has at least a chance of moving. Why? Because if he now does the hostage deal that he could have done any given day, and then he could say, "I killed everyone in Hamas, and I got all of the hostages back, and now I'm moderating," right? Because before, the Israeli population is going more and more to the right. If he doesn't get any part of the job done, the right wing is going to say, "Oh, he's not vicious enough, he's not fascist enough, we have to kill more and more vengeance, etc." But now that he can claim credibly that he got the job done, he can then say, "Look, I'm now moderating," and maybe pass Naftali Bennett in popularity and actually win an election. So you have to focus on what Netanyahu's interest is, because that outweighs all of Israel's interest, all of American interests, and obviously they don't even think the Palestinians are humans, have that cabinet. So that's why we have an interesting opportunity here. But if Netanyahu says, okay, no, let's go get more land, and they start setting in settlers to Gaza, no, that means this whole thing was to steal land all along.
After it was confirmed that Sinwar had been killed, Netanyahu said, now it is clear to everyone in Israel and in the world why we insisted on not ending the war. Benny Gantz, who is considered a more liberal political rival of Netanyahu's, wrote on X, the mission is not over, and that the IDF will continue to operate in the Gaza Strip for years to come. Israel must take advantage of Sinwar's death to bring back the hostages and replace Hamas's rule, he added. I should also note that there are groups that are already planning events where, at least a third of the members of the Likud party will attend, and it's all about resettling Gaza with Israeli settlers.
So
okay, that's what the real intention is, Cenk. Okay, and Netanyahu is deeply unpopular. There's no way his approval rating is gonna rebound. He failed to keep his own people safe on October 7th. He has shown over and over again that he did not give a damn about the lives of those Israeli hostages in the Gaza Strip, continued doing aerial bombardments, continued essentially through his actions mocking the family members of the Israelis. Prior to that, there were mass protests in Israel over what he wanted to do in kneecapping the highest court in Israel because he wants to go unchecked like any good authoritarian would. Netanyahu's approval ratings are not gonna rebound. And what this has always been about, not just since the beginning of this war, but since the beginning of the establishment of Israel, is to ensure that they have as much land in that region as humanly possible. They're going for Gaza, they're going for the West Bank. I mean, what's happening in Lebanon right now? Really, is it really about going after Hezbollah?
Yeah.
Really? Come on.
Okay, so let me add to what Anna's saying and clarify something. So literally next week, Likud, that's Netanyahu's ruling party, is planning an event called, quote, preparing to settle Gaza. So they're getting Israeli settlers, the most radical ones that don't mind violating international law, etc. And they're going to show them around Gaza, their new property, okay? So now, we'll come back to that. So I'm the least idealistic person in terms of, oh golly gee, maybe the Israeli leadership will do the right thing. They have literal terrorists in their cabinet. I mean, I think their entire cabinet is terrorists. They've killed 40 times the number of innocent civilians that Yahya Sinwar did. That's an uncomfortable fact, but it is a fact. But Ben Gvir was convicted of supporting terrorism even within Israel.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay?
Think about that.
He encouraged the assassination of Yitzhak Rabin, the former Israeli prime minister. So he doesn't mind killing Israelis at all if they disagree with him, let alone Palestinians, and convicted of it. So, all right, now that leads to point number 2. Now, what Israel had done was they had killed anyone that could be considered within 1 million miles of moderate inside Hezbollah and Hamas. The guy who really wanted to do a ceasefire deal the most inside Hamas was Ismail Haniyeh. They went out of their way to kill him in the capital of Iran, okay, which was unprecedented and was shocking, and didn't tell America about it. But the one guy they kept alive, and by the way, Hassan Nasrallah, who was the head of Hezbollah, had also agreed to a ceasefire deal the day before they killed him. And so all of that they said was just a coincidence. But the one guy that they magically kept alive was Yahya Sinwar. And today, how they got him is so instructive and interesting, because it was a bunch of trainees that accidentally stumbled across Sinwar and killed him. And it's funny how they emphasize it, but the framing it is also hilarious. New York Times had an article about Israeli intelligence, which is incredibly sophisticated and has proven that they're the best in the world by a lot, couldn't find Sinwar at all this time, but a bunch of trainees happened to stumble over him and kill him. Do you think maybe they weren't trying to find him so that they would have a remaining excuse to continue to destroy Gaza and take northern Gaza for themselves after they are doing what is literally called the surrender or starve strategy in northern Gaza? They haven't let food in since the beginning of the month. So they're actively starving those people to death as we speak. So Oh, look, the most radical guy, the guy who planned October 7th is the one that's still alive. Damn it, you trainees, you're not supposed to kill him. All right, anyways, so no, or you can take the New York Times story. Wow, what an unbelievable coincidence. And so it just happened to be that it was the trainees. So, all right, you can believe whatever you want about that, that's okay. Because what happens next is the most important part. If they continue with this line of, oh, well, okay, everyone in Hamas's leadership is dead. Everyone who planned October 7th is dead. Almost everyone in Gaza is dead. But okay, now our new standard is everyone in Hamas, not just their leadership. Every one of them has to die. How do we know when they're all dead? Or they all have to surrender. How do we know when they all surrendered? How do we know that? These are purposely impossible standards. Because even if, let's say, 12,000 people came out today in Gaza and raised their hands and said, yeah, we're Hamas, we surrender, you can just kill us all, okay? And here are the hostages. They would say, no, we don't know, maybe there's more, maybe that was a trick. In fact, today they started immediately declaring the new, not Hamas, Israel and America started declaring the new leaders of Hamas. Oh, look at this, they have new leaders. We killed them and they have new leaders. Oh, we got to keep killing them. We have to keep killing them. By the way, though, are they really, so this day is a good day, they actually killed one of the leaders of Hamas. But at the same time, at a different place, they also killed 24 people inside a refugee camp in a school. Totally innocent, again, burned to death, etc., bomb dropped on their heads. But no one cares, no one cares. Israel's war machine continues to level everything in its path.
Not the bug, it's the feature.
Yeah, so if Israel says, hey, you know what, we're done in Gaza, got the hostages back, do a deal, withdraw from southern Lebanon, okay guys, then hey, it was vicious, it was awful, it was one of the worst war crimes we've ever seen in our lifetimes, it was a genocide, but it's over, and it turns out they weren't grabbing land. They have that opportunity right now. But now after they've killed everyone in sight, and they accomplished all their missions, if they say, no, we're gonna put settlers in Gaza and we're not leaving southern Lebanon and would like to start a giant war with Iran, then you know they have always been the aggressors. This was always about land and every other thing was a lie.
Yeah, I've known that, and I think most people who have been paying close attention know that. And the real question is, once it becomes abundantly clear to everyone and it's impossible to deny, what does the US do? What's the US's policy? Well, are there any consequences for that?
No,
there won't be.
No, there won't.
So, what do you always say about absolute power? What does absolute power do?
It corrupts absolutely.
Right, so they'll continue.
Well, my only hope is that Netanyahu thinks that it's in his self-interest not to. But if Netanyahu decides it is in his self-interest to continue to slaughter nearby Arabs and invade nearby countries, then America will finance that till the cows come home. So there is nothing that Netanyahu can do that is, atrocious enough, illegal enough, aggressive, imperialistic, colonialistic enough, sick, immoral enough that America would say, we're gonna pull a dollar. Never, ever, ever, until there's a populist revolt in America. That's your only hope.
They have killed hundreds of UN workers. They have killed hundreds of journalists. They have shot children in the head and chest, children as young as 5, according to American doctors who donated their time and risked their lives to provide medical care in Gaza. All of this has been going on for over a year. And the Biden administration, the White House, full of the decent Democrats, the wonderful, decent, kind-hearted Democrats, have only enabled this over and over and over again. No situation in politics, no war has black-pilled me on the Democratic Party more than this. This is Biden's legacy. He should revel in it.
If you enjoyed this video, that's because of our members. They make us independent, they make us strong, and they make us honest. Become a member today by hitting the join button below.